This is the Tektron Ultra 5000 electric scooter, and is something of a rather hot debate because some people think they should be banned completely and others think that they should just be legalized straight away so that people can use them, know exactly where they stand, know what the law is, what the requirements are, and so that everybody is clear about it all. So welcome back, but if you're new to my channel, I am a barrister who helps you to understand law. And for full disclosure, this Tektron scooter was sent to me to include within this video. But the first thing that I have to make absolutely clear at the outset of this video is that e-scooters are not currently legal to use on public roads unless they're part of a trial, which I'll come back to in a moment. Now, I'll make this clear because many retailers are being criticized for showing that they are used for commuting and all these sorts of things. And of course, that is not permissible unless it's part of one of these trials. Some of the trials have come to an end, but some of them have also been extended quite significantly. For example, in Somerset, the trials have been extended until May 2024. And the council claims that the tens of thousands of miles traveled on these e-scooters has removed the equivalent of 37 tons of carbon from the atmosphere. Now, when looking at e-scooters like the Tektron Ultra with a range of about 25 miles and a speed which is limited to 15 miles an hour, it's easy to understand how they could be significantly useful in a commute if the legislation is changed to permit this outside of the trials to make it normal, again which I'll come back to in a moment, because they could indeed provide a green transport replacement for short commutes. Now, there have of course been lots of criticism of e-scooters, with lots of people being injured and some people sadly even being killed. But some people do comment, because I do read some of those comments to get the general sense of what the community feels about this news, is that some people, like many other things, blame the rider, not the scooter. Now, one argument might be that if legislation is introduced to legalize e-scooters within narrow circumstances, such as license, tax, insurance, and so on, they might well slip very easily into the same category as a motorbike or a moped. Because, of course, an e-scooter is currently considered in law to be a powered transporter. This is why they are not permitted in public places, on the pavement, or indeed on the road, because there currently is no mechanism for testing them for the standard MOT, which would be required for any other mechanically propelled vehicle. There is likely to be very limited insurance available, and of course there's not currently any provision to pay tax. Not to mention a license to drive or ride them, which is of course required for any other mechanically propelled vehicle. But the argument might be that if all of those things were in place and these scooters were only allowed to be used on roads, then they would blend in with other motor traffic. I, for one, suspect that this is going to happen because of the green implications of transport, but I also believe that there are going to be stringent requirements in place, such as a specific test, specific insurance, an addition to your license perhaps, and even some form of tax eventually. Because of course with the recent news, tax is even going to be applied to electric vehicles. As for the safety and testing of e-scooters, I suspect that they're going to have to meet minimum requirements. For example, this Tektron Ultra has both front and rear disc brakes, which I think will be an absolute minimum so that braking is both quick and efficient. And of course the speed is likely to be restricted as well, both in law and a requirement for the device to have a restriction, just as it is on an electrically assisted bicycle. That currently is limited to 15 miles an hour, which again, the Tektron Ultra is also limited to 15 miles an hour. And so overall, I do believe that the introduction of robust legislation, rules, regulations, license, insurance, tax, etc. will make these e-scooters safer, and they will ultimately have an effect on carbon emissions. When Tektron reached out to me to ask me if I wanted to include one in this video, I said yes, although I know that they can't be used on public roads, so I emphasize that again. They can only be used on private land as it stands, unless of course you're using one that is part of a scheme. But I said yes to the offer because I'm looking ahead, and if the legislation is brought in to allow these to be used on public roads, I think that they would be very useful, particularly for me going to and from court between train stations and so on, at least unless and until the legislation changes. So I hope that's cleared it up to anyone that was confused. Please remember to like this video and subscribe, and of course I'll keep you updated as and when, indeed if, the legislation changes. In the meantime, thank you for watching.